Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, I'm Tristan Riddell.
And I'm Matt Hansen.
Talk nerdy to me.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
On this episode of the Nerd Party, episode 3, we have some sad news to start off the show. We haven't done a news segment yet, but we plan on doing them as the show goes on every once in a while when there is news to report. Matt, when you and I were talking, when we wanted to start the show, we were talking about, movie news and technology news and comic book news and things like that, things of note. But today we have some rather sad news, and that's the passing of the actor, performer, voice artist, everything you can think of, Robin Williams.
Yes, it was very sad. We are recording this on August 11th, so literally this news is about, 4 or 5 hours old at this point. And I am still in a state of shock, quite frankly.
You're the person who told me about it. You texted me just a couple hours ago and said, so this happened. And I didn't want to believe it. Like when I read it, I was like, no, that can't be right. I mean, Robin Williams isn't the type of person who passes away. He's the type of person who lives on and on forever in film and in our memories, and he will, but it's just my mind didn't want to believe it.
And then, of course, you log on to social media, and it's all over the place.
Oh my gosh, I mean, Twitter exploded, Facebook exploded, everything that you could think of, just everywhere you went. I mean, even sites that had nothing to do with arts and entertainment was talking about Robin Williams.
I mean, this is big news, though, because this is a man who has had literally decades-old career and was still going.
Was still going strong. He's only 63, or excuse me, he was only 63. That's younger than my father.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite shocking. I mean, from at this point, we know that they're saying that it's apparent suicide, which just makes it even sadder, quite frankly.
I mean, that's the thing, is that it hasn't been declared legally on what it was or is, but you're right. I mean, everyone is believing that it's suicide, and this was the statement that was released by Robin Williams' publicist. He has been battling severe depression as of late. This is a tragic and sudden loss. The family respectfully asks for their privacy as they grieve during this very difficult time. And so, you'd think if it had nothing to do with suicide or self-inflicted wounds, that they wouldn't mention battling severe depression.
Yeah, and I do remember not too long ago reading reports that he was back in rehab, so whatever personal demons he may have been battling might have resurfaced recently if those reports were to be true.
And like you said, this just adds even more tragedy to it because it could have been prevented, and it brings to light that invisible illness is still an illness.
Most definitely, and I think it makes it all the more sadder because when you say the name Robin Williams to me, I'm thinking of things like Mrs. Doubtfire and The Birdcage and just this energetic, insanely funny personality, and it's hard to believe that someone like that could have been so sad.
It's sadly we've had this history of the sad clown. We go through the pantheon of actors and actresses that we've known throughout the decades, and so many of the greatest comedians and comediennes have led a very sad and tragic life, but yet they bring laughter to millions of people, but they can't bring laughter to themselves. And it's just heartbreaking. Both you and I grew up in his movies, and I was really hoping that my kids would be able to see, my future kids would be able to see new movies by him. And I guess at least they'll have the ability to watch the movies that I grew up on. And
you know what? I gotta say, of course, we're all gonna miss Robin Williams, but I think that your kids will be fortunate in the fact that I really do think that his work remains timeless.
There's so many jokes that have been floating around before his passing about how, he was lackluster, he's over the top, he only had like 5 impressions, and anyone who's seen his multiple comedy specials knows that that is untrue. I mean, I was just talking about this with my wife about his interview on Inside the Actor's Studio. Normally those only go for an hour. Sometimes I've seen some for a half an hour. His went on for 2 hours because he just did not stop riffing, changing characters, coming up with different scenarios just off of the top of his head. There was one segment where he grabbed a lady's scarf from the audience and did 10 different characters and situations and scenes with just that scarf. I was just flabbergasted at how funny it was and how off the cuff.
Yeah, the man was the living embodiment of improv. I can't think of someone better at improv than he. And we had talked about this earlier as we were discussing the news, and I think we decided next episode of the Nerd Party we were going to go into a more in-depth look at some of our favorite performances from him over the years.
Yes, absolutely, because this man definitely deserves more than just one episode on a new podcast. But that's the least that we can do, is just talk about him, and remember the good times, and just reminisce about what we loved about his performances. And, you know, obviously we didn't know him, but I felt like we knew him through his performances. And you may be asking, you're like, why are we talking about this on the Nerd Party? What's nerdy about Robin Williams in movies? But if you actually look at his history, he has a lot of genre-specific movies that he either lent his voice to or his face to. And some of those being one of my favorite sci-fi films, and which I think is very much overlooked, is Bicentennial Man.
Yes, I do remember that. Turn of the Millennium film, actually. Actually, you know, you would think it would be kind of quirky, but it's actually very sad, that movie.
That's one of the reasons why I don't think this movie did very well, is because of the marketing. They did not know how to market this movie. Like, it's a Robin Williams film, so it's either a drama or a comedy. Well, okay, so when we market it, we're going to have to market it as one or the other. And so they only marketed it as a comedy. But this had some serious, heavy-hitting life questions and dramatic questions that not a lot of kids could deal with. And so some parents were upset.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we give him credit for being a comedian, but he's had plenty of excellent dramatic roles over the years, whether it be from Dead Poets Society to Good Will Hunting. One of my dad's personal favorites is What Dreams May Come.
Yes.
Just all kinds of different genres, and he was a really versatile actor. So
you've heard me say this before, and no joke, my favorite comedy of all time, and I'm not just saying this because of the man's passing. If you asked me yesterday or 2 years ago or however long ago, what's your favorite comedy, I would have said The Birdcage.
Oh, it's definitely on one of, like, some of my top comedies of all times. And actually, when we do the show next week, that's one of the ones I will be rewatching and reminiscing on for sure.
For those of you who haven't seen it, you absolutely need to. But before we go on too long, we are going to talk about him next episode. So we just want to let you guys know that if you haven't heard about this, and this is the first time you're hearing about it, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Let's try to make sure that if we notice somebody in our own lives going through some sort of depression or going through some sort of episode, lend a helping hand, let them know that you're there, and try to get them help whenever you can see it.
Because you really don't know, compassion really can go a long way in these people's lives.
On a lighter note, for some of you, we're moving on to our feature segment of the episode, and that is something that we teased a little bit in the last episode if you stayed tuned till the end, and that is Terminator Genisys.
Yeah, the new upcoming Terminator. We don't know quite what this is yet. And this is why we're kind of talking about it, to break it down a little bit. We know the name, and just last week we revealed the spelling of the name, which was the didn't sit well with a lot of people. I mean, for me, a name of the film is not going to necessarily make or break it for me.
It's kind of like the Batman and Superman movie.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's a horrible title. It's Batman v Superman, not even spelled out versus, just Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, we all know that's talking about, it's the beginning of the Justice League, but it's such a mouthful, and it's apropos to absolutely nothing. But this one, we're like, Terminator Genisys, we get it. It's the beginning of the dawn of a new era, maybe a new trilogy, or they're going back in time and erasing everything, like a la, Abrams style. We don't know. And then they come out with the spelling, and you're like, what does that mean? Why is that important?
I think they're just trying to... For those of you who don't know, the spelling of Genesis is being Genisys. So I think they're just trying to be a little, winky clever that, it has to do with computers.
Like maybe like genetic systems, maybe, or something like that?
Or maybe it's just like, I have no idea. We don't know very much about the story. See, here's the thing. So should we break down what we do know about the film so far, Tristan?
Yes. Let me know what you know, because I know very little.
Okay, well, I do know about a little bit about the casting. So, for you Game of Thrones fans out there, Emilia Clarke, who plays, I believe she's Khaleesi on
Yes.
Game of Thrones, is been cast as Sarah Connor, and I think that's kind of clever. Actually, I think the Game of Thrones actors have been getting a lot of movie roles lately because the popularity of the show is so high. We do know Arnold's coming back. We're getting the real Arnold in this one.
And we'll get back to that after you do some more introductions.
Who else? Oh, I know. Speaking of which, just coming off the retrospective we just did, Jason Clarke, who was the lead Malcolm in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, has been cast as John Connor.
And I am thoroughly excited about that.
And I believe his name is Jai Courtney. Now, this actor's been on Spartacus. I know my parents are familiar with him because they watched that show. I'm familiar with him from the less than stellar Good Day to Die Hard. But he has been cast as Kyle Reese.
Matt Smith also has a role, but we don't know what that role is. All we know is that it's supposed to be a substantial role.
Yes. So, and a substantial role that I understand, if this new one is successful, will be present in the other two films. Oh, and also, too, I believe that the... I can't pronounce his name, but the guy who played Storm Shadow in the last two G.I. Joe movies has been cast as, I believe it's another Terminator.
Byung-hun Lee?
Yes. There you go.
Yes. Now, okay, here's the other thing is that when you go to the IMDb page, which I know it's just like Wikipedia that you can update it yourself and everything like that, but there's a gentleman named Aaron Williamson who has his character name is T-800. Now, that's Arnold's Terminator is the T-800, and then when you click on him, he says that he's a fitness trainer who works with actors and athletes.
It might be a double.
That's what I'm thinking, that it's a double, or that they used his body for the computer generated version, or I don't know, something to that effect.
Because let's be honest, I mean, I for one am kind of happy to see Arnold in a Terminator film again, but he's not what he used to be. He's still built pretty big. But you don't necessarily get Terminator much off him anymore, do you?
Well, see, okay, that's the thing. Okay, let's talk about that now. So Arnold Schwarzenegger is back. Now, there was so much speculation on what was going to happen and how they were going to bring Arnold back, because they're like, oh yeah, Arnold's going to be in the next Terminator film. Everybody was just scratching their heads as to how. The man is 67 years old, and he's old enough to be my father.
And quite frankly, he was pushing believability in Terminator 3, and that was 12 years ago.
Yes, thank you very much for bringing that up. He was very much pushing it where you're just like, okay, he's looking a little long in the tooth, and you're like you said, that was over a decade ago. And then there was rumors that this movie was going to take place in the 50s. Sarah Connor's parents were going to be involved. Arnold Schwarzenegger was just a regular guy. He was a human who was helping to defend Sarah Connor's parents, and Sarah Connor is like a little child, or I don't know. And then like a Terminator comes back, and that's where they get his image, because they're like, oh, this guy's pretty epic and he was able to defeat the other Terminator. So since he's such a badass, let's use his image and create the T-800. So that was one rumor, and I was like, okay, I could get down with that. Apparently that's not the case. No,
from what I understand, and I'll try to, this is from all these conflicting reports I've heard, and I've actually seen a couple of, I don't know if you've seen them, Tristan, but a couple of production stills with Emilia Clarke and Jai Courtney and Arnold Schwarzenegger. From what I understand, I think this film might be pulling off another, it's a term I've coined after seeing a couple films, another Abrams Singer reboot.
Ah, yes.
Because I know you haven't seen X-Men Days of Future Past yet, Tristan, but when you do, he pulled another Abrams. That's not too much of a spoiler, but I've since coined that kind of reboot, the Abrams Singer reboot.
That's what I figured. I mean, even though I haven't seen it, that's pretty much what I gathered. And looking at these production stills now, it looks like we see Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor in scrubs, in medical scrubs, and then we see the back of Jason Clarke.
You say we see them in scrubs. I almost wonder too if because from what I also read in this, from what Arnold has said in interviews, we're going to see key moments from the previous films revisited, which makes me wonder if they're going for this alternate timeline thing. So I wonder if those scrubs are maybe, when Sarah Connor's supposed to be in the mental hospital, and it just so happened that Kyle Reese avoided death and is there with her.
I think that's definitely possible because you have heard that they're going to revisit key moments, and in this photo we see Arnold looking awesome but older, and then I think I can't remember who said it, if it was Arnold himself or it was somebody else, that the T-800 was going to have flesh on him that aged. Right. And so like that's going to be their rationale, that he's the same T-800, but the biomatter that we know is on him just ages like everybody else. So part of me is kind of like, okay, that makes sense, and the other part is like kind of an eye roll.
It depends on how they integrate it into the story, if that's the case.
Exactly. I think you're absolutely right. And to go back to what you were talking about, revisiting other moments, I saw somebody mention this, and this could be interesting, is that instead of looking at it as a J.J. Abrams and Singer-esque reboot, look at it more as a Back to the Future 2 kind of thing.
Which is essentially what I looked at Abrams' Star Trek as. I mean, come on, that's the first reference that came to my mind, at least, was Back to the Future 2. But I still think it's within the same vein. From what I understand, one of the scenes we might be seeing is when Arnold gets his clothes from Bill Paxton in the first movie. That's a rumor I heard.
Yeah, I heard the rumor that the iguana is even going to be in there.
Yeah, you know what? Part of it is kind of like we're calling back to the films, and they're trying to get a sense of nostalgia out of us, which could be a little corny, but I don't know. I'm kind of a sucker for those things. I kind of like, let's go back to those good movies.
I geek out too whenever I see something like that, or a callback, or like in Star Trek 09 when we saw the tribble on Scotty's desk and it had the little coo noise. Yeah, I freaked out when I saw that. I freaked out. And
it just made me wonder, like, what's going to happen in this universe if Kyle Reese didn't die? You start because my mind is so sci-fi focused, you start thinking of all these other possibilities that, what could have happened if this happened or this didn't happen, or...
I just got a little tingly when you said that.
Exactly.
Just the idea that Kyle Reese and John Connor, like a grown-up John Connor and a grown-up Kyle Reese, could be in the same room together is really exciting. I know we kind of saw that with Salvation, but not really. Like it was more like a teenage Kyle Reese and a grown-up John Connor. And then I think they shared maybe like 30 seconds together on screen. And so to get some real interaction between father and son spoiler alert, everyone, that could be really fascinating to see.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the equivalent of, I'm using different actors here, obviously, than the ones they're going to be using, but this would be the equivalent of having, like, Christian Bale and Michael Biehn meeting each other together. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's pretty much all we know. They've been so tight-lipped on this, and they've wrapped production. I don't even think that Star Trek did this good of a job in Into the Darkness or 09 when it came to keeping production details under such tight lip.
Yeah, I'll give them a lot of credit, and I like, quite frankly, there's always a lot of complaining when it comes to we don't know anything, but I don't know. I thought that the whole thing was, a few years ago when trailers showed a lot of things that were like, oh, the trailer gave away way too much. But it seems that people want it both ways, you know what I mean? So I would rather I would rather not know a lot and be surprised going in than knowing too much.
I really enjoy a good teaser trailer where it really gets your blood pumping, it gets you intrigued, and you're just like, holy crap, I can't wait to see this movie. And then, that's, like a minute to 2 minutes, and then comes down the line, we have a full-blown trailer that's like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes.
We get like 5 trailers these days before the movie comes out.
And then it gets then you get to 3 and 4, and it's just absurd. Like, you look at
the international version.
Yeah, you have the international version, but look at Guardians of the Galaxy and Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm pretty sure that they released the whole movie in these trailers.
In the case of Spider-Man 2, I would say so. In the case of Guardians of the Galaxy, I think you might be a little surprised. I'm just going to say that much.
That's good to hear. That is good to hear, because they just kept coming out with new clips and featurettes and trailers and teasers to the trailers and teasers to the teasers.
Right. But, and it should be said at this point in August of 2014, we have yet to see any sort of trailer for Terminator Genesis. But you have to imagine with this film coming next Independence Day weekend, we're going to get it sometime probably in the holiday season.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to give them credit. I mean, they just wrapped filming like 5 days ago. And so, I mean, if this was a Marvel film, they would have had 2 teaser trailers while they were still filming. And I'm glad that they didn't, release something at Comic-Con when they weren't ready.
Right, but it'll be interesting. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I imagine on some of the holiday blockbusters we'll be getting, we might see a glimpse of what's to come. But I imagine whatever glimpse we see won't tell us that much. I mean, I do remember not too long ago, in fact, it was just, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, just getting that first teaser trailer for Salvation and really not knowing what to expect beyond the fact that it was going to take place in the future.
Before we start getting into Salvation, because there's so much to talk about with Salvation, and that's pretty much all that we know about Genesis, let's talk about where Genesis kind of fits within the history. I mean, we have 4 films to talk about, and some of them great, some of them not so great. So let's just start with where it all began. James Cameron, Terminator.
1984. I mean, it's 30 years old at this point.
That's just mind-blowing. That's crazy to think that movie is just older than me, and it's crazy to think that I'm almost 30. I mean, I remember the first time I saw this, I was young enough to not understand a thing that I was watching.
Oh, see, here's the mind-blowing thing, Tristan. I hadn't seen this film until 6 years ago, in summer 2008, when I first saw.
What? Explain that to me.
It was just something I meant to get around to, but I remember that summer I was particularly obsessed with watching Aliens, and I loved James Cameron's work, so I was like, I really should get around to watching Terminator. So I went back and watched the first movie, and that was my first experience, and then I really loved it, and then subsequently watched the whole series over that summer. So really, I'm sort of a newbie in retrospect to Terminator, but I love it.
So what did you think the first time you saw it? Like, what
was
were your
blown
impressions
away.
here?
I mean, obviously, I think I understood it a little bit more. I was 19 at the time. Loved it. I thought it was just so wonderful for its time. It had such a compelling, interesting story. Probably one of the best time travel movies of all time. It was just fantastic. And I'm not going to lie, part of it was the reason I saw it was because I saw Aliens and I had a massive crush on Michael Biehn and I knew he was in that movie. So I went back to see it for him and I loved him, loved Linda Hamilton, loved the cast. And it was just, I was ready to see the second one as soon as the first one ended.
It is really cool to see the arc of Sarah Connor throughout, specifically those first two movies. Like seeing her in these humble beginnings where she's your average person, average girl, lives in the city, just looking to have a good time, man. And then her world just comes crashing down when Arnold comes in.
In that first movie, she's a 19-year-old waitress,
Yeah. It's just mind-blowing to think, like, juxtapose the Terminator with Terminator 2. Sarah Connor, like, look at Sarah Connor as just your normal waitress, just trying to get by, and then look at her in Terminator 2 with the iconic tank top and the shades and the shotgun.
Her first scene in Terminator 2 is her doing those pull-ups on her bed. And the woman is ripped. I mean, this is the thing I love about James Cameron. And, say what you will about his later work, and people like to make fun of his writing and all that sort of stuff, but James Cameron has a quality that I really appreciate about him, and it's one of my favorite qualities in all of sci-fi. And it's that he likes the idea of strong female protagonists, and he has this talent in each of his films of taking what seems to be your average woman who is not a soldier and is not a warrior and turning them into such through circumstance. You get it with Linda Hamilton in the Terminator series. He made Sigourney Weaver a warrior in Aliens. You could even say the same thing about Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio in The Abyss, and you could even say the same thing about Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that was a fantastic arc in True Lies with Jamie Lee Curtis, where she starts off as just the wife. And you're just like, okay, she's the stereotypical wife who doesn't know what's going on. And then we see her all the way at the end threatening the Bill Paxton and becoming an agent. Now,
not only that, having a girl-on-girl fight with Tia Carrera.
Heck yes, and I love that movie. There's a lot of eye rolls in that movie, and it's very hokey. But
Oh no, that movie's fantastic.
oh no, I love the film. I mean, it doesn't knock from. I don't think it brings it down in any way. There's hokey moments in it, and it's fun. It's awesome. No, I love the movie. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, with James Cameron films, James Cameron makes money. Okay, he has made Hollywood literally billions of dollars. I mean, those critics who talk about his writing are right. I can't argue with them. His dialogue is usually pretty horrible, but the SOB knows story structure and he knows character development, and so that is what brings us coming back for more.
And the dialogue may be substandard every now and then, but it's never to the point of like his filmmaking to me never gets to the point of a Michael Bayism where it's like it becomes insulting to a group of people. The people that he makes as stars, he really makes look good, and they're heroic. You know what I mean?
What's funny is that I don't know if audiences knew how obsessed people were going to get with the antagonist in the Terminator was Schwarzenegger.
Well, started off as the antagonist.
Yeah, well, in the first film, he was the antagonist, yes, but I think one of the many reasons why he became the protagonist, or one of the protagonists in Terminator 2, is just because people fell in love with his character and became obsessed with this person who only shared a few lines with us.
No one was sold on him. If you've read any of the behind-the-scenes materials, the actors were hesitant to work with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he really wasn't known at that point. He had just done the Conan films and, was sort of a B actor. Like, he wasn't a star, and no one thought this was going to go anywhere. He had Conan, but we can be honest with ourselves. This is the role that made him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, the Conan movies are iconic and will go down in history as fun, but also campy. But this is the film that made him the man he is today.
And then subsequently, when he got roles like, Predator, and even, he started his comedy chops in the 80s with Twins. By the time we get to Terminator 2 in 91, the man's a full-blown superstar.
My wife and I just got done watching his documentary in 1977, Pumping Iron. Have you ever seen this?
Yes, I have.
I freaking love that documentary. I've seen it a handful of times, and it is so much fun to watch it. There's so many lines in that you just end up quoting all the time, and just like that's the thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger is that he gives you so many lines. Like in Terminator, the whole "I'll be back," which was originally supposed to be "I'll come back," but he screwed it up.
Well, I didn't know he screwed it up, but if that's so, he backed into genius.
Right? I'm pretty sure I read that. I mean, listeners, if I'm wrong, let me know. Find me on Twitter. But I'm pretty sure that he screwed it up, and so they just kept it. I just lose it every single time because I just think about how many one-liners this man has given us.
I know, to the point where, like, he has some of the best ones, even in that first one alone. I mean, I can't say it on air, but when he does the whole F you a-hole thing.
Yeah. It's just pure genius.
But the funny thing is that we look at that first movie now and we see it as such a success, but really it was sort of a cult underground hit that built and built and built up. I'd argue that where Terminator found real success was when Terminator 2 comes out in 1991.
I think that you're right, because the special effects, they were great for their time, but it was still stop motion animation. It still looked choppy and weird, but it was still thrilling because of the character development. But then when Terminator 2 came along, holy crap. This movie came out in 91, and the special effects, it is 2014, people. This movie came out in 1991. You watch that movie today, you would think that it was made last week.
Yeah, exactly. And I do believe for 1991, it was like one of the most expensive movies ever made at the time. And no one thought it would make its budget back because of it. But this is the thing with James Cameron, even today with Avatar, which was, whatever you say about the writing, it was one of the most expensive movies ever made. And you think to yourself, it'll never make its movie back. The man finds a way to make a ton of money.
He does. It was $94 million, and that never happens back then. That never happens.
That's unheard of for 1991.
Absolutely unheard of for 1991, and he made his money back and then some.
And, this is the movie that I believe, the first one's in pop culture to be sure, but this is the movie that everybody remembers because everybody went to go see this film.
And this is the movie that everyone should remember because this is a fantastic film. This is one of those moments where the dialogue is a little hokey from time to time, but it's completely secondary to the story that drives you moving forward.
Definitely, because you know what, this one, I'd argue that the first one it's a sci-fi film, but it's more of a horror film because Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are always running away. This is the film where they get to fight back, or at least Sarah Connor does, and it makes you feel more empowered.
Yes, those moments when she's pumping the shotgun and just blazing into the T-1000 is just one of those moments that just grip you and you remember for forever, because it's just, you just hear the echo of the shell hitting the floor and then booming into his chest, and it's just over and over and over again. It sticks with you.
And I can't, of course people do it now for like the superhero films, but back then I can't think of anybody who committed so heavily to a part to change their physical appearance the way Linda Hamilton did. Because you look at that first one and she's tiny and mousy, and she's anything but in Terminator 2.
When I go back and watch this film, it's always a delight. It's always such a delight, because not only for the special effects, which are mind-blowing, but just for the just the sheer idea of, think about how seamless it was to take the antagonist and make him the protagonist in the second film, and we all believe it and go with it, and we're excited about it.
That's because he gives us an equally great antagonist in the form of Robert Patrick in the T-1000.
Robert Patrick did such a great job of moving his body in a very different way, moving his body in a way that made us believe that he was otherworldly, that he wasn't human, and yet it wasn't hokey and it wasn't weird, it wasn't over dramatic. It was just these subtle differences of how he moved his head and moved his arms, and you were scared of him.
Oh, definitely. And the whole shape-shifting aspect added a whole new level of danger to this film. I mean, when a Terminator can look like anybody, you introduce that wonderful paranoia that you get in such films like The Thing, or even later. It's quite famously known that these his liquid metal special effects were Star Trek fans. It's quite known that was helped the basis for Odo in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, if you look at the Abyss, that was that water creature, that first water creature that we see, the tentacle that come up from the bay and then find the nuclear warhead. That was his test to see if it would work.
Yeah, he's always thinking like a film ahead, James Cameron, I think. I mean, like, because you just wonder how you come up with this sort of stuff.
Just to round this out, because we could talk about this for the rest of the episode, but we're not going to, because we have 2 more films to talk about real quick. Academy Awards, it won Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing, Best Makeup, and Best Visual Effects. Now, as far as a sci-fi film goes, that's the best you're going to do at the Academy, and so if you get those, that's a big clap.
Agreed, and I think you and I can agree, and I think many other people would say this as well. It goes down as one of the best sequels of all time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's right up there with Godfather Part 2 when it comes to how it complements the franchise.
But of course, as we go from Aliens to Alien 3, as we go from Terminator 2 to Terminator 3, everything that we like about the last movie must be crushed.
It's... Okay, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.
2003, 11 years ago, Arnold decides to give it one more go before becoming governor of California.
This film, what is there to say about this film? This was, okay, so many people called Salvation unnecessary.
Some people call Salvation the worst, and I would challenge them. I think the worst is this one.
Salvation is by far not the worst, because once you put Terminator 3 into the mix, good lord, this is just, I can't find one redeeming quality about this film.
I know, talk about a cliff dive, right? After Terminator 2.
I mean, like, the acting, the actors, the storyline, the character development, the character assassination, just... Ugh.
For those of you who don't know, Terminator 2 ends, they've averted the crisis, they've blown up Cyberdyne Systems, which is the company that would create Skynet, which would create the Terminators. And it looks like, there is no fate but what we make. That's the whole thing of the second film. Terminator 3 basically says, no, there is fate and the world will still end. And nothing you do can stop it.
And we see an older John Connor who's trying to live off of the grid, and Sarah Connor's dead.
Let's break this down for a second. We get a new John Connor and Nick Stahl, who, goes from being the smart mouth Edward Furlong, who you believe could eventually hone that cynicism and become a military leader to this absolute wuss. John Connor in Terminator 3 is just an absolute wuss, and you would never believe that he would ever lead anything, much less his own life.
That's the thing, is that when you look at Furlong, he's young enough to believe, okay, he can be anything when he grows up. Nick Stahl is older, he's an adult. When we see him in the film, like you said, like, you just don't believe that he's going to become a military leader. And then we even see him, like, it's a flash forward where he's in the future, he has a scar on his face, and he's shooting a gun in the air.
It looks like he's playing dress up.
Yes, exactly. Like, it looks like he's pretending. You're just like, oh, look, like he's playing army guys, you know? Like, it's absurd when you see it. And I feel like this film, even though the story was horrible and the acting was horrible, I feel like it could have definitely improved by better casting.
It could have. And speaking of casting, Linda Hamilton is nowhere to be seen, because the tough warrior goddess that she became in Terminator 2, where she could kick anyone's ass and take names, got cancer in between films and died.
I just found a quote from her. They offered me a part. I read it, and I knew my character arc was so complete in the first two, and in the third one, it was a negligible character. She died halfway through, and there was no time to mourn her. It was kind of disposable, so I said no thank you.
I think she made the right decision, quite frankly.
Absolutely. I think, Linda Hamilton's a smart woman and a good actress, and I think she understood that this was only going to go downhill.
It is what it is, and, in her place for female lead, we get Claire Danes, who, if I can just be honest with you, Tristan, I've never liked in anything. I've always found her really annoying and harpy and a shrew, and especially in this film, she is so shrill, and all she does is scream the whole picture. Not even Linda Hamilton in T1 did that.
I'm trying to think of something that I actually did like her in.
I mean, she's on Homeland now, and she's apparently really good. I'll never know, because I can't stand her.
The only thing that I enjoyed her in, and that wasn't even because of her, it's just because I liked the movie, was Romeo and Juliet by Baz Luhrmann.
No. I can't deal with that film.
I personally like Baz Luhrmann's style once you get past the first 15 minutes of whatever film you're watching.
I had to watch that for freshman English, and I like the old one so much better.
Oh, you like the Zeffirelli one?
The Zeffirelli one, yes.
Okay. Romeo and Juliet has never really been my favorite play by Shakespeare.
No, I would say it's one of his least. So that's where I knew him. That's where I knew her from as well, prior to Terminator 3, and it did nothing to help her coming into Terminator 3, and Terminator 3 certainly did nothing to help her coming out of Terminator 3.
With this film, they delay Judgment Day for a little bit, but then bam, it actually happens. Like, we see Judgment Day happen at the end of this film. It doesn't matter how it happened, because it just happened. Okay, we see the missiles go off, Skynet takes over, but then it just, all they say is like, oh, well, I guess that's fate is fate, and Judgment Day could never be avoided. Bam, end of film. And then everybody's on a downer.
Yep, and I don't want to spend too much time on her, but the less said about the Terminatrix, the better.
Oh, that's right, yeah. See, so forgettable, and it's just, this is not... I am all for female villains and female protagonists. I mean, obviously, we're James Cameron fans, and we're Terminator fans, we're Sarah Connor fans. How could you not be a fan of that? But this was not the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if Cameron had directed this film and he decided to go with a female villain, he would not have put her in a tight red leather dress for the whole remainder of the movie and expected us to take her seriously.
All right, well, let's move on. So since Judgment Day happened, we get to see what I have always wanted to see ever since I was a kid and saw the first Terminator film, was what happened after Judgment Day. What happened when John Connor is a military leader? What does it look like? What's the feeling? What's the style? And we got that from Terminator Salvation. Now, a lot of people said that Terminator 3 was unnecessary. That was true. A lot of people said Salvation was unnecessary. I disagree, because I felt like Salvation was an apology for what Rise of the Machines was.
And it's a sort of a game changer. I mean, for the first time, we have a Terminator film with no time travel. And no Arnold. Well, kind of, we have Arnold, but not really. It was different, and you know what? I was looking forward to this one when it came out. It was the same summer that Star Trek came out, and it was like, wow, that was a good sci-fi movie. Let's see if this one's a good one. And I know this one's highly divisive, but I will take Salvation any day over 3.
Say 3 never happened. Say Rise of the Machine never happened, and it goes the Terminator, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and then goes right into Terminator Salvation. I think we would feel very differently about this film. because we wouldn't have had franchise fatigue, but at the same time, this still would not have been. This still wouldn't have beaten Terminator 2.
Certainly not. It's for me. It ranks third of 4.
Absolutely, and I think it would still rank third of 4 if something else happened. So it's just, I think this got a lot of bad press because of Christian Bale's explosion on set.
Well, that, and whenever a R-rated franchise jumps down to PG-13, it also gets that stigma.
Absolutely, and I've seen the unrated cut of this, and the unrated cut is unnecessary. So all that there was really was, I think, some added side boob to the Blood Moon girl, some unnecessary swearing. Like, that's all that it was. That's all that was in the unrated cut. And so I was like, I was fine with it being PG-13.
I mean, I when I saw it in the theater, I definitely didn't feel like I was missing anything.
Yeah.
So, it picks up post Judgment Day, and what I like about this is that we get to see the ascension of John Connor into the Supreme Commander of the Resistance, because he's not at the beginning of the film. He's just a soldier. In command of his own unit, but not the full resistance movement.
I like the story. I felt like the ending was fun. I thought it was a little bit of a cheat with the whole heart transplant, but
yeah,
it was I don't know. I thought it was a fun ride. I thought it was cool to see these Terminators run around in the desert and see different types of Terminators. I thought it was cool to see a young Kyle Reese. And I don't know. I didn't understand the hate that this one got. Was it a perfect movie? No. Was it a bad movie? Not either.
No, I don't think so. And like I said, for me, when the bar got set so low by 3, the fact that it exceeded and actually turned out to be, for me, quite enjoyable, I was happy with it, and would have been okay had they gone with a sequel to Salvation.
What are the criticisms that people have? Is it like Christian Bale's voice? Is it...
Well, I think it's partly Bale. I think it's partly the PG-13 thing, and I think it's partly that some plot criticisms, and I don't know. I guess for when it comes to these sci-fi and action movies, I have a much larger suspension of disbelief than a lot of people, because a lot of these things don't bother me until they're pointed out to me, and even then, sometimes they still don't bother me.
I'm the same way. I mean, like, I go into it knowing that it's a movie, and that I like, even though I am hypercritical of certain things, I'm very
certainly are.
Well, I'm hypercritical of a lot of technical things when it comes to movie making because of what I do, but at the same time, I try to sit back and just go, okay, it's a movie.
I literally, my only thing going into Salvation was, please be better than 3.
And we both got our wish, and I'm super happy about that. And this was supposed to be the beginning of a new trilogy, but sadly that didn't happen. But they're also thinking that Terminator Genisys is going to be the beginning of a brand new trilogy, but we'll see if that happens. Now, what are some moments that you hope are revisited in Terminator Genisys, since we've heard that they're going to go back in time, back and forth to revisit key moments in the franchise?
Well, there are 3 that I can think of just off the top of my head. One, I would love to see another version, or at least a version from a different angle, of the initial attack in the first movie in the Tech Noir Club. If they're going to go a different route, I would like to see how they avoid Kyle Reese's death, because that death happened, pretty suddenly and pretty definitively. So I want to see how they could possibly avoid that one. I kind of want to see Sarah Connor in the mental hospital again from T2.
They spend so much time in the mental institution in there that there's so many major moments that happen there. It'd be very easy to spend most of your time there.
That's very true. At the very least, I want to know if we're going to have Reese in this movie, you need to tell me how he doesn't die.
One of the moments for me, I don't think I have 3, but one of the moments that I absolutely want to see is when they confront Miles Dyson.
Oh, that would be cool.
I really want to see a new version of Miles Dyson, and I want to see, not necessarily, like, you don't have to redo where he rips off his arm again or anything like that, but just when they confront Miles in his own home and they start to attack, and I'd love to see that happen again, but in a different way. Maybe they don't convince him in this version, like maybe they actually do more harm than good, like I'd like to see it turn that way.
They have so much to play with, so we'll see what happens. As far as Terminator Genisys goes, I remain optimistic, because I think that Star Trek and other reboots have shown that you can restart a franchise in an interesting way, and you can use the method of time travel to do it. And since time travel has been such part and parcel of the Terminator series, they already have that at their fingertips, so they don't have to explain how they get it. So you already avoid some of the the issues that come up for like Star Trek 09 or even X-Men Days of Future Past, in that you don't have to explain how the time travel works. We've always had time travel. We will definitely be doing a show come next July when it does come out in theaters.
That was our show on the Terminator franchise. We gave you a little a sneak peek into what is known about Terminator Genesis and talked about everything from the Terminator all the way up to Terminator Salvation.
And I think you would agree with me, Tristan. I think both of our rankings are, or at least for me, it's T2, T1, Salvation 3.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Well, that's our ranking, and that is what we think so far. And like you said, Matt, we're gonna definitely be talking about this next year. But if you'd like to talk about it with us now, you can go online. You can find me at the Insane Robin on Twitter. And where can we find you, Matt?
You can find me at mhansen0207 HANSEN.
And you can find everything that you need on thenerdparty.com. That's where we post all of the links to all of our shows and how you can find them. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you find podcasts, you can find us. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining the Nerd Party. Until next week, I'm Tristan Riddell.
And I'm Matt Hansen.
Coming up next week.
I'm being grotesque, but you've got to be. You see what I mean? You got to be crazy. It's too late to be sane. Too late. You got to go full tilt, bozo. Because you're only given a little spark of madness. And if you lose that, you're nothing.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.